Well, happy Friday, Storm fans. It is another edition of Chatting with Chezy, the head coach of the Quad City Storm. Dave Chinichny tuning in from, looks like the back porch in Michigan. And Dave, it looks like it's a pretty decent day up there in Lansing today.
Yeah, finally got to wear a sweatshirt. Been a long while since that's happened, but it's been nice and cool here for the past couple days after some storms. So no pun intended there on that, but always a pleasure to hear your broadcasting voice when we do these things. I think it's something that I miss when I'm watching these NHL games, or if I'm watching back in some of the SPHL games. I truly do miss hearing that voice in the background. Not to be biased or anything, but you know, it's nice to hear somebody who's very knowledgeable about the game.
Well, that's very kind of you. I have to use it when I can now because I won't be calling any games this season. So I appreciate the kind words, and we'll start right there. I've been following on social media. I know you've been watching a lot of the NHL playoffs, and it was not the Eastern Conference or Western Conference Finals a lot of people predicted, and it's been kind of bizarre. We have seen a lot of different games, and we'll start. I guess we'll start in the East at the Lightning and Islanders, a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Final. What have you seen specifically from the Islanders, who are just such a different team than your Tampas, your Colorados, your Vegas that everyone likes to watch, but are certainly proving to be pretty effective?
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret, Barry Trotz is a very prepared, high detailed structured, all his teams have been, and, he's had success for many years. So you are seeing that, but at the same time, you run into, your Colorados and your Tampa Bays and your high offense octane, where you got 4 or 5 guys sometimes in the rush, right? It makes it a little bit hard to defend if you don't get a guy back checking in proper timing. So it's been nice. I think after last night, who knows what's going to happen next game. Just from my experience, I've been in playoff games where we've won 7-2. The next game we were in Colorado, we lost 8-1, and we're going into game 7 for the Cup Finals, and you just don't know what to expect, right? You go from a really high to a really low, and I think that's the issue, or something that you gotta reel in pretty quick. Like, you can never be too high, you can never be too low, because it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So I think I think Tampa did what they needed to do. I think some of their players that weren't producing obviously got the monkeys off their back, and then you got Vasilevsky. I mean, what was the stat last night? He's played in the last 50 games, playoff games, like something ridiculous, with another shutout. And it's nice to have that peace of mind, I guess, back there when things break down defensively. You got a wall like him to just backstop you. And that's not to take anything away from any of the other goaltenders that are still in the playoffs right now. I mean, you got somebody in the other conference there who's been pretty well too. So, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But I think it's been fun to just watch some summertime hockey right now and and enjoy it, even though it's a little out of the norm. But it's great to be able to watch. And I think I'm getting a little bit older now. I'm not too fond of these 9 o'clock starts and the 8 o'clock starts. I wish they would start a little bit sooner, but it is what it is, since I'm in the Eastern time zone right now. But it's hockey, so it's good to watch. And like you said, it was one of those games last night where it was just, after the second period, it's like, all right, like, this game's pretty much done, unless, Islanders could really, really pull something amazing off.
Oh, you're exactly right. It was bizarre, and we'll let pull the curtain back a little bit for the fans watching. Fans watching this right now know more than we do. We're recording this on a Tuesday, so once this airs, the winner of that series will be potentially decided, or we'll be going to a game 7. We're still recovering from that 8-0 beatdown we had to see last night. But it's interesting you mentioned something I was curious about, just kind of the transition after a game like that, whether you're on the winning side or the losing side. I think it was Brian Boucher last night on the broadcast said something to the effect of course, he being a goalie, is like coming back from a game like that for him was easier than like a 3-2 game where it was just coming down to the wire and you were just invested till the end. you kind of mentioned something similar to that, where you really have to adjust differently, keep that sharp mindset. That's never easy to do, especially not in the postseason.
No, I think you need to have a quick mindset, like whether you got the result or you didn't, it's the old thing where it didn't matter last night, I guess. And if you're looking at it from the Islanders, it's a loss. It doesn't matter if it was 8-0 or 3-2 or overtime or double overtime. It's still a loss and it's not the result you want. So just moving forward, I guess, it's just another 60 minutes for a game, and their backs are against the wall, and there's going to be some desperation out of that team. And, I'm sure that building's going to be packed again, loud as normal. And, that's something that Tampa Bay's got to weather, but at the same time, Tampa Bay going in, they don't have to put on a show, right? They're not the home team. They just got to go in and get their win to move on to the finals here. So looking for good things. I guess maybe we should do some predictions, Brian.
Sure.
At this point, since it's going to air. Oh, sure. Boy. You know what? I'm going to say Tampa in 7.
Okay. So
I do like the Islanders. Yeah. I think, just after an 8-0 blowout like that, I think they're just going to be like, you know what? They're going to throw everything at them. I think they're going to get a few fortunate bounces, maybe some calls their way, and then you'll see it go into Tampa. And I like the Islanders, but at the same time, I mean, going into Tampa game 7 after some of their guys have been getting some points here, with Stammer getting those 2 goals and an assist, it's got a lot of confidence for him. I mean, you saw it after he celebrated on the first one, let alone the second one on the 1T and the peeper there. So it's that's my prediction, but I mean, Tampa could easily close them out next game too.
Yeah, I think we'll know in probably the first 5 minutes of game 6 how that one's going to go. I think the Lightning will win in game 6. I think they'll get it done and then face. And I guess we can start with a prediction, and then we'll talk a little bit about the games in the Western Conference. And what to me has been certainly, and I think most people, the biggest surprise of the postseason is the Montreal Canadiens making a run. You alluded to how good Carey Price has been. I don't know if he's going to be good enough to carry Montreal to the series win, but on the same token, the goaltending position on the other side for Las Vegas has been anything but stable. I think Vegas probably wins in 7, but I'm not convinced about that. I guess first, what's your prediction? And then what have your thoughts been on that series?
Wow, I really like both teams. Vegas is kind of a powerhouse. I mean, they obviously took apart Colorado there, but Vegas also, to me, it seems like early in a playoff series, they start off a little slow and then they kind of get their rhythm and they figure things out. But, they got guys that have won it there too, with Fleury. But the goaltending situation there, I mean, I like the fact that I like the swagger from Lerner. I don't know if you caught his thing where he showed up 2 hours prior to the game, knowing it was going to start, just so he could read all the comments on Twitter of people bad mouthing him, right, to kind of motivate him. And I guess that, it works for him. So that's great. Obviously I had to be a little PC there, but, and I don't know if you noticed after the game how pumped Fleury was, regardless if he was in the net or not. He's in it for the team, and it really didn't matter. I mean, he knows that probably last game, I know it went in overtime, but I mean, $1:55 left in the game, and pizza up the middle there. It's a bad bounce, but probably rightfully deserved. I mean, there's really not a lot of time in playoffs. I know we talk about them being game 7s, but it almost, when you're in them, it seems like it goes by quick, right? You snap your fingers and the series is over. You're either moving on or you're going home. And I think to see that, you don't see that much in sports nowadays, where the person who just got pulled out and isn't playing just loves the fact that his team won, right? I think we're in this individualistic, not for the team. I got to get mine first type mentality. And I think, that's great. And I think that's what makes Marc-Andre Fleury such a good human being and a good player and a good asset to have on the team. And for Vegas to pick him up in the expansion draft was just magnificent. Not only that, for what he does in the community there, which he does quite a bit. And then, Yeah, I mean, you got guys like Stone who get the job done one way or another, rightfully deserves a C there. And then you got Pacioretty, who's just got a wicked shot. And, you have all these threats. So deep down, I think I do want to see a Vegas Tampa matchup just because it's pretty equivalent in the size of the threats on both sides. I think Tampa edges them more in the power play. But I mean, when you get those two teams going, you talk about really exciting hockey. And then Montreal, there's a lot of old vets. You got your Corey Perry, who, whether you like him or not, the guy's won the Stanley Cup. He's proven himself, and I think he's been a solid pickup for Montreal and what they needed. You got Shea Weber back there, who he's just a man beast. He gets out there, he gets the job done, and Petrie's red eyes going. So I think Montreal is interesting. It's just one of those things where they get a lead and they kind of shut it down, right? They're pretty good defensively, but when you're going against high octane offense constantly with every line, it's a little hard to defend when you only may have like 4 players in the back end that can play those minutes, and you add penalties in there and it really becomes a struggle.
Yeah, I think no matter who the final is, there'll be some great storylines. Like you said, Vegas, Tampa Bay. I mean, I'm sure the league would rather have the Canadian audience and getting Montreal in there. But from a strictly entertainment perspective, I don't think there's a better matchup than that. It would also be fun to watch Carey Price and Vasilevsky go head to head. That'd be a low scoring final. And the team I didn't mention, of course, by the way, this fly got in here yesterday. We had the doors open cleaning and it flew in from outside. It's been driving me nuts all day. But no real storyline, but the Islanders, which is kind of their MO. They're not a fancy team. They don't have, I mean, we've talked about Barzal. I think he's one of probably the 10 best players in the league, but they just kind of go about their business and get the job done. But they've had the bad fortune of having to go up against a very talented Tampa Bay team, not just this year, but last year as well in the Eastern Conference Finals. So you're saying Tampa in 7. I've got Tampa in 6. I think Vegas in 7. What was your pick for the Western Conference?
Boy, because it's 2-2 right now, right? And then tonight will be game. Well, as we're airing this, it'll be tonight. Let's go. I say Vegas gets the job done in the next 2. So
Okay.
Vegas in 6.
Do you think they go back to Fleury or stick with Lehner?
I mean, the guy won. You got to kind of stay with him, right? That's what happens in playoffs too, right? And that's another thing I've been learning too is regardless if your player's injured or not playing, you have to keep them in, right? You have to keep them part of the team. I think it's so easy for players to sit back and you might get that answer with an injury, and you better be prepared to step up and take place, and I wouldn't say earn your keep, but obviously contribute to what the team needs done, right? And obviously Leonard steps in, no problem. Looked very calm early on. I mean, he was tested and he rose to the occasion. So definitely, I think they're going to have to go with Leonard for the next 2, because like I said, if they're going to win both of them, then he's going to stay. And then I think they make a decision going into the finals who's going to start.
I would not be shocked if it unfolds exactly that way. That's I think how I'd be leaning too. But we'll kind of transition from there to the last time we talked. We had our protected list established. Since then, everybody has their protected list established in the SPHL. The Vermilion County Bobcats have done their expansion draft. Talk a little bit about what you have seen around the league, players being protected. Any surprises, any teams that are kind of popping to you early that might end up being tough matchup, tough team to play against? Just give me your thoughts on what the SPHL is looking like as of today.
I don't really think there's many shocks out there, in the sense that I think the coaches obviously do their homework with guys. There were guys that were left off that you kind of scratch your head, but you must know that the coach knows something that had him previously. So a lot of players signing in Europe or retiring or, transitioning out of the game. And so it's been fun and it's nice to look, but, at the end of the day, Jake and I were just talking about this. I'm like, you could look good on paper, but nothing's going to really show itself until we get down to competing, which is always nice. So it's fun. It's been way too long. I know we talk about it all the time on here with, we can't wait for October to come, but it's like still a little bit of ways away. I know we want to fast forward a little bit quicker to get there, but I think in due time, everything will resolve itself. We'll have our roster set or ready for training camp, I should say, not set, but going forward, it's just been one of those things where a lot of people are wanting to come and play in Quad City, and it's just kind of picking through and doing some research on the players and finding the ones that are going to be the proper fit for the start of the season.
I know our fans were, everybody certainly fired up about our protected list. And I know a lot of those guys, hopefully all of them, and some new guys as well in the next month or so, probably actually in about a month, will be starting to get signed to their training camp contracts, and we'll be announcing those. And I know a few have already, and though we won't be announcing all of them, I do want to mention that this season, our training camp contract signings are presented by Sweet Tooth Snacks. So in about a month, when we start rolling those out, they will be the presenting sponsor. And we're going to tease today one player who is not on our protected list that has signed the training camp contract. Will be reporting to the Quad Cities in the first week of October. And Dave, I'll let you pick who you want to drop as the early announcement today.
I think this individual will be pretty ecstatic and, probably already posted something on social media, but Marcus Ortiz has been a player that's been on my radar for quite a bit. A big body right winger who has the finesse to score goals, but also get dirty in the corners and not afraid to, stick up for teammates. So somebody that I've always been wanting, but never really had the opportunity to get, just because, how trades work. It's, you got both sides got to agree on something. And then also, he's always been protected for the most part every year, but fortunate for us, we were able to sign him, and looking for big things out of Marcus. And I know he's a big advocate and getting involved in the community. So I think it's just hand in hand for us and in our organization. I think, him wanting to come to play, it was kind of that approach, right? So it was kind of interesting because I told him many times how many times I was trying to get him, but he's like, man, I wish you could have, but hey, at the end of the day, we finally got him, and it's a clean slate, and it's at the beginning of the season.
Awesome. Well, that is great news. We are pumped to have him here again. Storm signings for this upcoming season's training camp are presented by Sweet Tooth Snacks. We'll tag them in this posting. And again, in about a month, when we start formally announcing all of these, they will be the presenting sponsor. And we are very appreciative of their support. Excited to have Marcus here. Like you said, he, a guy I remember very well, could be a thorn in the Storm side sometimes. And it's nice to have him playing for us, not against us. So that is good stuff. And boy, did you hit on it. The months are flying by. I know you guys will be making a trip to the Quad Cities in a couple weeks. We're excited to have you here, and who knows, you may make an appearance out at the deck once or twice. Some fans might get to see you, but October is going to be here very soon. And I think I asked you this already in one of our interviews that we did before, and I think your answer was something to the effect of just the routine of hockey. But today, on June 22nd, what are you missing the most about hockey season?
I think the conversation with the players. When I was playing, I had numerous coaches that you wouldn't see until you go on the ice, and then you wouldn't see them the rest of the day. And I just always wanted to make myself available and greet everybody when they come in as much as I can. I always kind of linger by the coffee because I know that's the first place most of the players go to. So I always go over there and chit chat with players, see how everybody's doing, how everybody's doing back home, just getting a real feel for the players and being a family. Cause I know at the end of the day, that's what's going to win a championship for us. And, it's not fake by any means. It's just that I'm really invested in the players that come through our doors. And, it's, Al Graves is going to Yale Business School. And, so far that's been the highlight of my coaching career because, I can't take all the credit for writing the letters of recommendation, but in layman terms, I was spelling it out and somebody else was just typing it. But he greeted me with that text message a few weeks ago, and so I'm really pumped for him. And it's one of those things where I know it's a business at the end of the day, and it's about hockey, but the people that come through our doors, whether we trade them or get rid of them, I know they always talk highly about our organization, and that's something that's going to continue happening. And then also Vincent Beaudry on Father's Day became a father. I don't know if you caught that, but him and I were chit-chatting as much as we could. I didn't want to bother him too much, but to see that, and just it's interesting for me because he was one of my players, and now it's like he's moving on with his life. So it's good to re-interact with players after the fact. I try not to in the old days, players just seem to be like a piece of meat, and I never want my players to ever feel that way when they come play for our organization. And it's not easy. I know sometimes it's probably easier to treat them that way, but I refuse to do that. And everybody should have respect for each other, whether they move on away from the organization or not. So but Bodes is a dad, and Al's going to business school, so things are great.
That is awesome. Yeah, and I did see that, and congratulations to the Beaudry family on welcoming a new kid into the world. And that is, I did not know that about Al. That is not surprising in the least. He is one of the hands down best guys, and super smart, super kind people who have come through here in the last few years. So that is really cool. And that's cool that, like you said, you've gotten to keep in touch with those guys. So excited to have more of those relationships built over the next many years. Excited to get you and the guys back here in October and before. And I think that'll do it for Chatting with Chezy for this month. We'll be definitely putting some more of these together, but until next time, Dave, thanks for hopping on.
Awesome, Brian. Thanks again.